High on the cliffs of the American Southwest, hidden within the folds of time, stand the silent remnants of a civilization that defies easy explanation. The ancient Puebloans, a people of extraordinary ingenuity, built structures so puzzling that even today, archaeologists and historians scratch their heads in wonder. Imagine towering stone complexes perched precariously on sheer cliff faces, sprawling underground chambers with no clear purpose, and intricate networks of roads that vanish into the desert without a trace. These aren't just ruins, they're riddles carved in stone, left behind by a culture that mastered their harsh environment in ways we're only beginning to understand. For centuries, the Puebloans thrived in this unforgiving landscape, crafting homes, ceremonial spaces, and entire communities with nothing but stone, mud, and sheer human determination. Their architectural feats weren't just about survival, they were expressions of something deeper, something spiritual. Circular chambers called kivas, aligned perfectly with the movements of the sun and moon. Mysterious petroglyphs etched into canyon walls, whispering secrets we've yet to decipher. And then there are the great houses, multi-story marvels with hundreds of rooms, some of which seem to have no practical use at all. What drove these builders to create such enigmatic spaces? What stories do these walls hold? That's exactly what we're about to explore. Together, we'll journey through 30 of the most baffling structures left behind by the ancient Puebloans, uncovering the theories, the controversies, and the unanswered questions that surround them. From the iconic cliff dwellings of Mesa, Verde to the sprawling mystery of Chaco Canyon, each site holds a piece of the puzzle. Some believe these places were hubs of trade and ceremony, while others argue they were designed as celestial observatories or even portals to the spiritual world. One thing's for certain, the deeper we look, the more fascinating the story becomes. So settle in, because by the time we're done, you'll never see these ancient ruins the same way again. High in the arid expanse of what is now New Mexico, the great houses of Chaco Canyon rise like silent giants from the desert floor. These colossal structures, some reaching 4 stories tall with hundreds of rooms, weren't just homes, they were the beating heart of a civilization that stretched across the Southwest. Take Pueblo Bonito, the crown jewel of Chaco, with its sprawling D-shaped design and walls meticulously aligned to the cardinal directions. But here's the puzzle. Why would a society with no written language, no wheels, and no pack animals construct buildings with such mathematical precision? The answer might lie in the stars. Many of these great houses are aligned with celestial events, like the summer solstice sunrise or the lunar standstill, a rare moon phase that occurs only once every 18.6 years. Doorways and windows frame these cosmic moments with eerie accuracy, suggesting the Puebloans weren't just skilled builders, they were master astronomers. Some researchers believe these alignments served as a sacred calendar, marking times for planting, ceremonies, or migrations. Others argue the buildings themselves functioned as giant observatories, connecting the people to the cosmos in ways we're still unraveling. Then there's the mystery of the materials. Thousands of wooden beams, some hauled from forests over 50 miles away, were used to construct ceilings and support walls. How, without beasts of burden or wheeled carts, the Puebloans likely carried these massive logs by hand, traversing rugged terrain under the scorching sun. Even more baffling are the turquoise artifacts, seashells, and macaw feathers found in these dry desert ruins, treasures traded from as far away as Central America. Chaco wasn't just a settlement, it was a thriving hub, a place where distant cultures converged. Yet the greatest enigma remains: what was Chaco's true purpose? Some see it as a ceremonial center where pilgrims gathered for rituals beneath the vast desert sky. Others propose it was a political capital, ruling over a network of outlying communities. And then there are the whispers of something deeper, a spiritual nexus where the physical and supernatural worlds intertwined. With no written records left behind, the walls of Chaco's great houses keep their secrets close, leaving us to piece together the story one astonishing alignment, one painstakingly transported beam at a time. Among the straight lines and right angles that define most ancient architecture, Pueblo Bonito's curved wall stands out like a deliberate rebellion against the ordinary. This massive D-shaped structure, with its sweeping crescent of rooms, isn't just visually striking, it's an architectural anomaly in the Puebloan world. While most great houses followed rigid, rectangular patterns, the builders of Pueblo Bonito chose to break the mold, literally. What compelled them to deviate so dramatically from tradition? The answer might lie in the realm of the sacred. Archaeologists have long noticed that the curve of the wall seems to embrace the central plaza, almost as if drawing energy inward. Some speculate this design was intentional, creating a ceremonial space where sound could resonate powerfully during rituals. Experiments have shown that voices spoken at certain points along the curve carry unnaturally far, amplifying whispers into audible echoes. Imagine the impact during a communal gathering, chants and drumbeats swirling through the plaza, bouncing off that curved wall, enveloping participants in an immersive sensory experience. This wasn't just architecture, it was acoustic engineering with a spiritual purpose. Then there's the alignment. The open side of the D points precisely southeast, framing the sunrise during the winter solstice. At this pivotal moment, sunlight would have flooded the plaza, illuminating sacred spaces like the underground kivas in a dramatic play of light and shadow. Such precision suggests the curve wasn't merely aesthetic, it functioned as a celestial calendar, marking time in harmony with the cosmos. The Puebloans didn't just build structures, they wove the rhythms of the universe into their walls. But the mysteries don't end there. Beneath the curve, archaeologists uncovered a hidden network of tunnels and vents, some leading to sealed chambers containing rare offerings, turquoise beads, ceremonial staffs, even the remains of scarlet macaws from distant rainforests. These finds hint at rituals conducted in secret, perhaps accessible only to spiritual leaders. The curved wall, then, might have served as both a physical and symbolic boundary, separating the everyday world from spaces charged with sacred power. Why this shape, though, when straight walls would have been simpler? Some scholars point to natural inspirations: the crescent moon, the curve of a protective canyon wall, even the shape of a maternal embrace. Others see echoes of Mesoamerican influences, where circular and curved structures held cosmic significance. Whatever the reason, Pueblo Bonito's curved wall stands as a testament to a culture that saw architecture as far more than shelter. It was a bridge between earth and sky, a canvas for both innovation and devotion. Even in ruins, its silent curve continues to speak volumes. Deep in the heart of Chaco Canyon, the great kiva of Casa Rinconada stands as a silent monument to celestial precision. This massive circular chamber, nearly 60 feet across, isn't just an architectural marvel, it's a carefully calibrated instrument of astronomy. Step inside and you'll notice something extraordinary: 4 masonry niches perfectly positioned around the interior. When the summer solstice sun rises, its first golden rays stream directly through a carefully placed doorway, illuminating the southern niche like a spotlight. Months later, during the winter solstice, another precisely aligned entryway captures the low-angled sunlight, marking the year's shortest day with uncanny accuracy. How did the Puebloans achieve such pinpoint alignment without compasses, laser levels, or even written records? The answer likely lies in generations of meticulous observation. These builders weren't just stacking stones, they were reading the sky like a sacred text, tracking the sun's incremental movements across seasons. Some researchers suggest they used simple but effective tools, like wooden posts or standing stones, to mark celestial events over decades. Others believe the kiva's design itself served as a giant sundial, with shadows and light beams acting as natural indicators. But Casa Rinconada's secrets don't stop with the sun. Two small, unobtrusive shafts in the kiva's floor align with the moon's 18.6-year cycle, known as the lunar standstill. During this rare event, moonlight would have poured down these shafts, bathing the chamber in an otherworldly glow. The precision here is staggering. These alignments required not just acute observation, but an advanced understanding of celestial patterns passed down through oral tradition. The kiva's acoustics add another layer of mystery. A whisper uttered at the center reverberates with eerie clarity, amplifying even the softest sounds. Combined with the celestial alignments, this suggests rituals where light, sound, and celestial timing converged into a multisensory experience. Were these ceremonies meant to commune with ancestors, to mark agricultural cycles, or perhaps to reinforce the Puebloans' connection to the cosmos itself? What's undeniable is the intentionality behind every stone. Casa Rinconada wasn't just built, it was calibrated, a sacred machine engineered to harness the rhythms of the heavens. In a world without clocks or calendars, this great kiva functioned as both timekeeper and temple, proving that the Puebloans' true brilliance lay not just in what they built, but in how they wove the universe itself into their architecture. Beneath the towering walls of Chaco Canyon lies a hidden world that few ever see, a labyrinth of tunnels snaking through the earth like veins beneath the skin of the canyon. These narrow passages, some barely wide enough to crawl through, have sparked fierce debate among archaeologists. Were they sacred pathways for secret ceremonies, practical storage solutions for precious goods, or emergency escape routes in times of danger? The truth might be all three and more. One of the most compelling theories points to ritual use. Several tunnels lead directly to underground kivas, suggesting a symbolic journey from darkness to light, perhaps mirroring Puebloan origin stories of emerging from the earth. In one chamber, archaeologists found traces of colored pigments and the remains of torches, hinting at ceremonies conducted in flickering firelight. The very act of moving through these cramped, winding spaces may have been part of the ritual, a physical trial representing spiritual transformation. Yet practicality can't be ignored. Some tunnels open into large, empty rooms with smooth floors, ideal for storing food or ceremonial items away from scavengers and the scorching desert heat. The Puebloans were masters of preservation, using every advantage their environment offered. These subterranean spaces would have provided natural insulation, keeping corn, beans, and squash fresh long after harvest. Then there's the defensive angle. During periods of unrest or drought, when rival groups might have clashed over resources, the tunnels could have served as covert escape routes. One passage, abruptly sealed with stones, suggests a hurried attempt to block entry or exit. Imagine the urgency of a community vanishing into these hidden corridors, disappearing from sight as quickly as whispers in the wind. But perhaps the most tantalizing clue lies in the alignment. Several tunnels intersect with above-ground structures at precise angles that correspond to solar and lunar events. A shaft discovered in 2007 filters sunlight directly onto a carved spiral petroglyph during the equinox, projecting a dagger of light that slowly traces the spiral's curves. This wasn't just storage or escape, it was celestial engineering blending utility with profound cosmic observation. The more we uncover, the clearer it becomes. These tunnels were never just one thing. They were arteries of survival, veins of spirituality, and threads connecting the Puebloans to both earth and sky. In their shadows, the line between the practical and the sacred blurs, reminding us that for this ingenious culture, every stone, every passage held layers of meaning waiting to be uncovered. Stretching across the desert like ancient arrows shot from some celestial bow, Chaco Canyon's road system defies every expectation. These aren't winding footpaths worn by time, they're meticulously engineered corridors, some 30 feet wide, carved straight through the rugged terrain with astonishing precision. For over 400 miles, these roads connect great houses, shrines, and distant outliers, forming a network that rivals modern highway systems in its ambition. But here's the twist: many of these roads don't actually lead anywhere practical. They vanish into cliffs, dead end at rock faces, or climb steep slopes only to stop abruptly. So why would a civilization without wheeled carts or pack animals invest such labor into building roads that seem to go nowhere? One compelling theory points to trade. Artifacts found in Chaco Macaw, feathers from Mexico, seashells from California, turquoise from mines hundreds of miles away suggest a bustling exchange network. The roads may have served as sacred highways, guiding pilgrims and traders to ceremonial centers during seasonal gatherings. Imagine processions moving in straight, purposeful lines, carrying exotic goods and spiritual knowledge across the desert. The very act of traveling these roads could have been ritualistic, with each step infused with meaning. Yet spiritual significance runs even deeper. Many roads align with celestial events: the summer solstice sunrise, the lunar standstill, mirroring the astronomical precision found in Chaco's architecture. Some researchers believe these paths were pilgrimage routes, meant to retrace the journeys of ancestral beings or connect the living with sacred landscapes. The straightness might symbolize a direct link between worlds, transcending physical obstacles to create a symbolic bridge to the divine. Then there's the engineering marvel itself. The roads weren't just cleared dirt paths, they were often bordered by low stone walls or marked with cairns, some of which still stand today. In places, they cut through solid bedrock or ascend steep mesas via carved stairways, demonstrating a level of effort that goes far beyond mere utility. The choice to build straight, regardless of terrain, suggests these weren't just practical routes but manifestations of a deeper cosmological order. Perhaps the most haunting mystery lies in the roads that vanish. Some terminate at sheer cliffs, where wooden ladders or rope bridges might have once extended the path, echoing Puebloan stories of spiritual ascension. Others align with distant mountain peaks, markers on a celestial map we're still learning to read. Whether for trade, pilgrimage, or something more ineffable, these roads whisper of a culture that saw movement itself as sacred, transforming the act of walking into a dialogue between earth and sky. Every straight line etched into the desert becomes a question. What did they know about connection that we've yet to understand? Perched nearly 200 feet above the canyon floor, Pueblo Alto commands a view that stretches for miles in every direction, a vantage point so sweeping it feels less like a settlement and more like a sentinel keeping watch over the desert. To understand why the ancient Puebloans chose this precarious, wind-battered mesa for one of Chaco's largest great houses, we must consider the many roles elevation played in their world. From practicality to spirituality, every stone placed here tells a story of deliberate intention. First, the strategic advantages are undeniable. Pueblo Alto's position offers unobstructed sightlines to distant landmarks, other great houses, and the canyon's major entry points. Smoke signals or reflected sunlight from its heights could have relayed messages across vast distances, turning the mesa into a communication hub. Artifacts found here, including imported turquoise and macaw feathers, suggest it was a key node in trade networks where goods were gathered and redistributed. The climb to reach it, arduous as it was, may have served as a filter, ensuring only those with serious purpose made the journey. Yet the spiritual significance runs even deeper. Archaeologists have uncovered dozens of ceremonial pits filled with rare offerings, polished stone axes, shell necklaces, even bundles of sacred corn pollen. These weren't casual discards, they were deliberate deposits, possibly tied to celestial events. The mesa's elevation places it closer to the sky, a bridge between the earthly and the divine. During solstices, the play of light and shadow across its walls aligns with petroglyphs carved into nearby rocks, hinting at precise astronomical observations made from this lofty perch. And then there's the water mystery. Despite its arid location, Pueblo Alto boasts an intricate system of channels and cisterns designed to capture rain. These weren't just practical, they were symbolic, In Puebloan cosmology, rain is a sacred gift, and controlling its flow from such a height may have been seen as a way to commune with cloud spirits. The Mesa's isolation amplified this connection, turning every storm into a ritual. What emerges is a portrait of a place that defies single explanations. Pueblo Alto was a lookout, a ceremonial stage, a celestial calculator, and perhaps most powerfully, a physical manifestation of the Puebloan worldview. By building here, they didn't just adapt to the landscape, they claimed it, transforming a barren mesa into a beacon of human ingenuity and spiritual aspiration. The wind howling through its empty doorway still carries echoes of that ambition. Standing apart from the grand, sweeping curves of Pueblo Bonito and the towering walls of Chaco Canyon feels almost modest in comparison, yet its unassuming appearance holds intriguing secrets. This compact great house, built with small, blocky sandstone chunks instead of the usual finely shaped masonry, raises compelling questions. Was it the work of a different cultural group? A later construction phase, or perhaps a structure designed for a purpose entirely distinct from its neighbors? The clues lie in the stones themselves. Unlike the precisely fitted walls found elsewhere in Chaco, Canyon construction feels utilitarian, almost rushed. The smaller blocks, roughly uniform in size, stacked together like bricks, lacking the intricate patterns or decorative flourishes seen in other great houses. Some archaeologists argue this points to a later period when Chaco's influence was waning and resources were scarce. Others propose it was built by outsiders, perhaps migrant builders from the north who brought their own techniques. But here's the twist: despite its simpler style, Canyon still incorporates classic Chaco features, kivas aligned to solstice events, a central plaza, and even a few traces of turquoise inlaid decorations. This blend of styles suggests not a departure from tradition but an adaptation of it. Then there's the matter of scale. Canyon rooms are noticeably smaller, with lower ceilings and tighter doorways. Was this a practical choice, maybe housing for a specialized group like traders or craftsmen? Or could it have served as a storage hub, its sturdy walls designed to protect valuable goods? The discovery of unusually high concentrations of pottery shards and tools in the surrounding area supports this theory. Unlike the ceremonial grandeur of Pueblo Bonito, Canyon might have been the workhorse of Chaco, a place where the everyday and the sacred coexisted. Yet the most tantalizing clue comes from the shadows. Canyon positioning creates dramatic solar alignments during the equinoxes, with sunlight slicing through doorways to illuminate specific niches. This wasn't random. Even with its rougher construction, the builders retained Chaco's celestial precision. The juxtaposition is striking: a building that looks ordinary but hides extraordinary intentionality. Whether a late addition, an outsider's tribute, or a functional space with hidden ritual significance, Canyon challenges our assumptions. It reminds us that in Chaco, even the simple structures were anything but. Wujiji sits nearly 15 miles northeast of Chaco's bustling core, a solitary outpost clinging to the edge of the known Puebloan world. Its isolation isn't just geographical, it's architectural. Unlike the sprawling complexes of Pueblo Bonito or Chaco Canyon, Wujiji feels almost austere, with just 50 rooms and a single kiva built in clean, unadorned lines. Why would the Puebloans, masters of grand communal spaces, erect such a modest structure so far from the heart of their civilization? The answer might lie in the delicate balance between expansion and adaptation. At first glance, Wujiji's simplicity could suggest decline, a half-hearted attempt to replicate Chaco's glory as resources dwindled. But look closer and a different story emerges. The masonry, though pared down, retains the hallmark precision of Chaco's best builders. Walls align flawlessly with celestial events, and the lone kiva's placement captures the winter solstice sunrise with mathematical clarity. This wasn't careless construction, it was intentional minimalism, a stripping away of excess to preserve only what was essential. Some scholars argue Wijiji served as a way station, a deliberate pivot point between Chaco and the wider San Juan Basin. Artifacts found here are fragments of pottery from distant regions. Unusually high numbers of bone tools hint at a place where travelers and traders gathered, exchanging goods and ideas far from the ceremonial intensity of the canyon's core. Yet Wijiji's isolation may also reflect a cultural experiment. Its layout mirrors Chaco's grand houses in miniature, as if distilling their essence for a satellite community. The single kiva, positioned centrally, suggests a more intimate form of ritual, one that privileged cohesion over scale. Perhaps this was a testing ground for new ways of living as the Puebloans stretched their influence outward. The surrounding landscape offers clues. Wijiji sits near a rare perennial spring, a practical choice, but also along an ancient footpath that weaves toward sacred peaks on the horizon. Even in its solitude, the site maintained a dialogue with both the pragmatic and the sacred. The most compelling theory, though, lies in the silence. Wijiji lacks the dense layers of remodeling seen in other great houses, as if its builders knew exactly what they needed from the start. In this quiet corner of the desert, the Puebloans may have been refining their vision, proving that their brilliance wasn't just in building big, but in knowing when to build small. Far from a faded copy of Chaco, Wijiji stands as a testament to adaptability, a reminder that even on the edges of empire, innovation thrived. Its lonely walls don't whisper of abandonment, they speak of purpose, carefully chosen and flawlessly executed. Carved high on a sandstone boulder near Peñasco Blanco, a spiral petroglyph holds the key to one of the Puebloans' most astonishing celestial achievements. This isn't just rock art, it's a precise record of a total solar eclipse that darkened the skies over Chaco Canyon on July 11, 1097. The markings show a coiled serpentine form biting the circular symbol of the sun, a depiction so accurate that modern astronomers have matched it to historical eclipse paths. But how could a civilization without telescopes or written records predict such an event with pinpoint accuracy? The answer lies in generations of sky watchers who turned observation into an exact science. These ancient astronomers didn't need sophisticated instruments, they had patience and pattern recognition. By tracking the moon's cycles against the sun's path for decades, they could anticipate when its shadow might cross the earth. The petroglyph's position is no accident either. During the eclipse, shadows from nearby rock formations would have framed the carving in dramatic darkness, turning the entire cliff face into a natural planetarium. This suggests the site wasn't merely a recording device, but a ceremonial stage where the cosmic drama unfolded in real time. Imagine the awe of gathered witnesses as daylight faded and the stone serpent seemed to swallow the sun, a moment where art, nature, and celestial mechanics converged. The cultural implications run deep. In Puebloan cosmology, eclipses represented powerful transitions, moments when the veil between worlds grew thin. The serpent motif, recurring in their art and oral traditions, often symbolized cosmic forces or ancestral messengers. By documenting this event so meticulously, the Puebloans may have been honoring a pact with the heavens, marking a date when spiritual energy was believed to flow most strongly. Later descendants still recount stories warning against looking directly at eclipses, suggesting these celestial events carried profound taboos and teachings passed down through centuries. What makes Peñasco Blanco's marker extraordinary isn't just its scientific accuracy, but its multidimensional purpose. It served as both an astronomical record and a cultural touchstone, bridging empirical observation with spiritual significance. In one elegantly carved spiral, we see the Puebloans' genius, their ability to weave the predictable rhythms of the cosmos with the enduring mysteries of belief. The stone still whispers its secret. That true understanding comes not just from watching the skies, but from knowing how the heavens move the human soul. Hungo Pavi sits quietly at the eastern edge of Chaco Canyon, its low mounds and half-buried walls giving little hint of the treasures that might still lie beneath the sun-baked earth. Unlike its meticulously excavated neighbors, this sprawling complex remains largely untouched by archaeologists' tools, a deliberate choice that preserves its secrets for future technology and methodologies. What makes Hungo Pavi so tantalizing isn't just what we found, but what we haven't. Ground-penetrating radar surveys reveal anomalies beneath the surface, geometric shapes suggesting buried rooms, alignments that mirror celestial patterns, and what could be a network of tunnels rivaling Chetro kettles. The very soil here hums with potential, holding stories that could rewrite our understanding of the Puebloan world. One of the most compelling mysteries is the site's apparent layout. Surface surveys indicate Hungo Pavi may have been designed as a deliberate mirror image of Pueblo Bonito's iconic D shape, but inverted almost like a shadow or spiritual counterpart. If excavation confirms this, it would suggest a level of symbolic planning far beyond what we've documented elsewhere. Were these two great houses cosmic twins, balancing each other in some grand ceremonial design? The possibility grows stronger when you consider the alignment. Hungo Pavi's central plaza lines up with a rare lunar event that occurs only once every 18.6 years, just like Casa Rinconada's Kiva. Coincidence seems unlikely in a culture that built with such precision. Then there are the artifacts waiting to be unearthed. Nearby sites have yielded everything from intricately carved wooden staffs to caches of turquoise beads, but Hungo Pavi's undisturbed layers could hold even rarer finds. Archaeologists speculate about ceremonial objects made from perishable materials, feathers, textiles, or painted hides, that might have survived in the dry, sealed chambers. Private journals from early explorers mention rumors of a hidden chamber filled with copper bells traded from civilizations far to the south. Whether myth or fact, these whispers underscore the site's potential to reshape our knowledge of trade networks and spiritual practices. The greatest enigma, though, may be the people themselves. Why was Hungo Pavi left largely intact while other great houses were stripped of usable materials when the canyon was abandoned? Some theorize it held a taboo status, perhaps as a resting place for ancestors or a repository for sacred objects too powerful to remove. Others point to strategic value. Its position at the canyon's mouth could have made it a defensive stronghold or a welcoming point for travelers. Until carefully excavated, every theory remains plausible. What's certain is that Hungo Pavi refuses to give up its secrets easily. Modern techniques like LiDAR and 3D resistivity mapping hint at subterranean complexity, but the real answers still lie under layers of carefully packed earth. This patience, this deliberate waiting, might be the greatest tribute we can pay to the Puebloans. They built for the ages. Perhaps we should uncover their legacy with the same reverence. For now, Hungo Pavi stands as a reminder that some truths aren't lost, just biding their time. Perched on a desolate mesa 6 miles south of Choco's central canyon, Tsinkletsin defies logic. This solitary outpost clings to a windswept cliff edge, accessible only by a treacherous climb even today. Why would the Puebloans construct a great house here, so remote, so impractical, so exposed to the elements? The answer may lie not in the stones above ground, but in what flows beneath. Tsinkletsin's location makes sense when you trace the hidden water channels. Archaeologists have uncovered an intricate system of check dams and diversion walls radiating from the site, designed to capture precious rainfall and direct it toward agricultural terraces. Unlike Chaco's core, where water was scarce, this outlier sits near a natural drainage basin, a rare hydrological sweet spot. The builders weren't just constructing walls, they were engineering an oasis. Yet the logistics boggle the mind. Every beam, every stone, every ounce of mortar had to be hauled up 600 feet of sheer cliffs. The nearest source of suitable timber lay over 20 miles away in the Chaco Mountains. Imagine teams of workers scaling narrow trails with massive logs balanced on their shoulders, or lowering sandstone blocks down crevices with ropes made from yucca fibers. The effort speaks to something more than survival. This was a statement of control over an unforgiving landscape. What's even more fascinating are the alignment. Tsincletzin's eastern wall points directly toward Fajota Butte, the solar marker at the heart of Chaco Canyon. During the summer solstice, the rising sun casts a beam through a precisely positioned doorway, illuminating a petroglyph of a spiraling serpent. This wasn't just a farmstead, it was a celestial observatory fused with a water distribution hub. The site's most puzzling feature, a massive circular depression near the central plaza, once lined with plaster. Some researchers believe this was a reservoir capable of holding thousands of gallons, a liquid lifeline in this parched land. Others argue it had ritual significance, possibly reflecting the night sky like a desert-made planetarium. Whether practical or sacred, Tsincletzin's true genius lies in its duality. It didn't just conquer the cliffs, it harmonized with them, turning isolation into advantage and scarcity into abundance. Every drop of water channeled, every beam positioned, every wall aligned whispers the same truth. Here, even the most remote stone held purpose. Pueblo del Arroyo stands defiantly close to the bone-dry wash of Chaco Canyon's main arroyo, a location that seems to flout the Puebloans' usual careful avoidance of flood zones. While most great houses perched safely on higher ground, this sprawling complex hugs the ephemeral waterway, its back rooms practically whispering to the sandy channel below. Such risky placement begs the question, did the builders know something we don't, or was this a calculated gamble that ultimately failed? The answer might lie in the very thing that makes the site so peculiar, its relationship with water. During rare summer storms, the arroyo transforms from a dusty trench into a roaring torrent capable of scouring the canyon floor. Yet Pueblo del Arroyo's foundations show no signs of catastrophic flooding. Instead, archaeologists have uncovered carefully engineered drainage channels and raised floors that suggest the Puebloans weren't avoiding the water, they were preparing to harness it. The structure's unusual semicircular shape may have acted as a natural berm, redirecting floodwaters toward agricultural terraces downstream. This wasn't poor planning, it was hydrological innovation. Excavations reveal layers of sediment packed with nutrient-rich silt, hinting at deliberate floodplain farming. The Puebloans might have seen the arroyo not as a threat but as a volatile ally. Trade adds another layer to the mystery. Artifacts found here include an unusually high concentration of shell beads from the Pacific and macaw feathers from Mexico, suggesting Pueblo del Arroyo served as a bustling exchange point. Its riverside location could have made it a natural gathering spot during the wet season, when seasonal rains turned the arroyo into a temporary thoroughfare. Picture traders wading through shallow waters to unload turquoise at stepped platforms, their goods reflected in the shimmering surface, a fleeting marketplace that vanished with the drought. But the most compelling evidence comes from the walls themselves. Unlike other great houses, which often expanded upward over generations, Pueblo del Arroyo grew outward in a single construction phase, its rooms spreading low and wide like roots seeking moisture. The builders seem to have prioritized horizontal space over vertical grandeur, as if anticipating the need to adapt to changing water levels. Even the kivas here sit partially underground, their floors lined with waterproof plaster, spaces that might have served as cool storage for water-sensitive goods during dry spells. Whether as a trade hub, a floodplain farm, or something more enigmatic, Pueblo del Arroyo challenges our assumptions about Puebloan priorities. In straddling the line between danger and opportunity, it reveals a society deeply attuned to nature's rhythms, one that didn't just endure the desert's whims but danced with them. Every stone placed near that arroyo whispers the same lesson. Sometimes the riskiest ground holds the richest rewards. Casa Chiquita stands as a striking anomaly in Chaco Canyon's architectural timeline, a compact structure that underwent a sudden, dramatic transformation mid-construction. Originally built as a modest 30-room complex, it was abruptly expanded with thicker walls, taller ceilings, and a new wing that doubled its size. But what prompted this radical shift in design? The clues lie in the stones themselves, where one building style literally gives way to another like layers in an archaeological palimpsest. The earlier phase reflects classic Chaco craftsmanship, carefully shaped sandstone blocks fitted together with precision, echoing the techniques seen in Pueblo Bonito and Chaco. Then, without warning, the masonry changes. The newer walls are rougher, built with thicker slabs and more mortar, as if speed suddenly mattered more than artistry. Some archaeologists point to environmental stress tree ring data reveals a severe drought around the time of the expansion, which might have forced builders to prioritize efficiency over elegance. Others see evidence of cultural influx, noting similarities to styles from the Mesa Verde region to the north. Were these changes born of desperation, or did they signal the arrival of new ideas carried by migrants seeking refuge in Chaco? Yet the expansion wasn't just pragmatic, it was symbolic. The addition included an oversized kiva, far larger than the original structure seemed to require. Its alignment captures the winter solstice sunrise, a feature absent in the initial design. This suggests the shift wasn't merely about adding space but redefining purpose. Perhaps Casa Chiquita evolved from a storage outpost to a ceremonial hub, reflecting a society recalibrating its priorities in the face of crisis. Artifacts found in the newer layers add weight to this theory. Fragments of rare pottery, a cache of turquoise pendants, and even a ceremonial staff carved from a single piece of juniper. The most tantalizing detail, though, lies in what wasn't finished. Several rooms in the expansion phase show signs of hurried construction, uneven floors, hastily applied plaster, as if the builders ran out of time. A stack of unused masonry blocks still sits where workers left them centuries ago. Whether abandoned due to dwindling resources, political upheaval, or shifting spiritual focus, Casa Chiquita's frozen moment of transformation offers a poignant glimpse into a civilization at a crossroads. Its dual identity, part old world, part new, stands as a testament to the Puebloans' adaptability, even as it raises unanswered questions about the pressures that reshaped their world. In these half-finished walls, we see not just a change in technique, but a story of resilience written in stone. Una Vida rises from the desert like a half-remembered dream, its walls so weathered they seem to melt back into the earth. Among Chaco's great houses, this sprawling complex wears its age more visibly than most crumbling masonry. Rooms reduced to faint outlines, towers now just gentle mounds of rubble. Yet in this erosion lies a revelation. Una Vida's faded state offers a rare glimpse into Chaco's formative years before the canyon's grandeur reached its peak. Unlike the crisp geometries of later structures, Una Vida's layout feels organic, as if the builders were still refining their vision one stone at a time. Walk its perimeter today and you'll notice something peculiar. The structure curves gently, following the natural contours of the land rather than imposing strict symmetry. This tells us Una Vida wasn't just built on the landscape, it grew from it, a collaboration between human hands and the earth itself. Early construction phases used rough, unshaped stones held together with generous layers of mud mortar, a stark contrast to the precise masonry of Pueblo Bonito. But look closer. Embedded in these humble walls are the seeds of Chaco's future brilliance. The oldest sections already show signs of celestial alignment, with doorways framing the summer solstice sunrise. Even in these experimental beginnings, the Puebloans were mapping the heavens. What truly captivates archaeologists is Una Vida's timeline. Tree ring dating reveals multiple construction phases spanning nearly 2 centuries, making it one of Chaco's earliest and longest-lived great houses. The earliest walls, buried beneath later additions, contain fragments of pit houses, temporary dwellings predating monumental architecture. It's as if we're watching the Puebloan world evolve in layers, from nomadic roots to settled complexity. Among these foundational layers, excavators uncovered something unexpected: caches of turquoise dust too fine for jewelry making. Some theorize this was ritual debris swept up after ceremonies and buried as offerings. If true, Veda's spiritual significance may have predated its physical grandeur. Then there's the mystery of the missing core. While later great houses clustered around central plazas, Veda's heart remains frustratingly elusive. Erosion has erased critical sections, leaving archaeologists to piece together its original footprint using ground-penetrating radar. The scans suggest a massive central kiva, possibly one of Chaco's oldest, surrounded by concentric rings of rooms. This layout echoes ancestral Puebloan designs from farther south, hinting at cultural memories carried into the canyon. Perhaps most poignant are the traces of color still clinging to sheltered fragments of plaster, faint red and yellow pigments that would have once transformed these walls into a vibrant canvas. Imagine Veda in its prime, terraced levels climbing toward the sky, murals glowing in the sunset, voices rising from the central plaza during solstice gatherings. Its modest ruins remind us that every civilization has its first draft, its trial run. In Veda's worn stones, we don't just see Chaco's beginnings. We witness the moment a people decided to reach for the stars, leaving footsteps that would echo for 1,000 years. High on the sheltered underside of a sandstone overhang at Peñasco Blanco, a simple yet startling image endures: a hand-pecked star beside a crescent moon, its form so vivid it might have been carved yesterday. But this isn't just rock art, it's a celestial snapshot believed to depict the supernova that blazed across the sky in the summer of 1054. For 17 days, historical records from China and the Middle East describe a star so bright it outshone Venus, visible even at noon. That the Puebloans captured this event in stone speaks volumes, not just about their observational skills, but how deeply cosmic phenomena shaped their worldview. The supernova's timing couldn't have been more significant. It coincided with the summer solstice, a moment already sacred in Puebloan culture. Modern astronomers confirm the alignment. On the solstice morning, sunlight would have struck the pictograph at the exact angle to make the carved star appear to shimmer, as if reigniting the celestial event for gathered witnesses. This wasn't passive stargazing, it was ritual theater where the cliff face became a stage for the cosmos. Nearby, archaeologists found traces of crushed turquoise mixed into the plaster beneath the carving, likely an offering linking the blue-green stone's spiritual power to the supernova's radiant spectacle. What's truly remarkable is how this cosmic event reverberated through Puebloan architecture. In the decades following the supernova, construction surged across Chaco Canyon, with new great houses oriented toward celestial phenomena with even greater precision. Pueblo Alto's eastern wall, built shortly after 1054, aligns not just with solstice sunrises but with the precise point where the supernova would have first appeared. Meanwhile, at Wijiji, a previously unused kiva was suddenly renovated, its floor painted with a star pattern eerily similar to the Peñasco Blanco pictograph. The message is clear: the heavens weren't just observed, they were woven into the very fabric of daily life. The supernova's legacy extended beyond stone and mortar. Oral traditions passed down among Pueblo descendants still reference a sun star that brought both awe and upheaval. Some stories describe it as an ancestor's fiery return, others as a warning of drought, a prophecy that tragically came true when tree rings reveal a brutal dry spell began within years of the event. This duality, celestial wonder and earthly consequence, may explain why later Puebloan structures incorporated both astronomical alignments and sophisticated water capture systems. They weren't just building monuments to the sky, they were creating safeguards against its mysteries. Today, the pictograph remains a testament to a culture that saw no divide between art, science, and spirituality. In that solitary star, we glimpse a people who turned a fleeting cosmic event into an enduring dialogue between Earth and sky. The supernova faded centuries ago, but its light still lingers, not just in the rock, but in the walls, roads, and very orientation of a civilization that dared to mirror the heavens. Nearly 400 miles north of Chaco Canyon, the Aztec ruins stand as a haunting echo of a distant architectural tradition, a puzzle wrapped in sandstone and contradiction. At first glance, this sprawling complex could easily be mistaken for one of Chaco's own great houses, with its signature T-shaped doorways, precisely aligned walls, and towering kivas. But why would the Puebloans replicate their signature style so far from home? The answer may rewrite our understanding of their influence across the ancient Southwest. One of the most striking similarities lies in the celestial alignments. Just like Pueblo Bonito, Aztec West's main walls align with the solstices, and its great kiva captures the equinox sunrise through a carefully positioned doorway. The builders even imported the same distinctive greenish sandstone from the Chusca Mountains, despite local materials being readily available. This wasn't just imitation, it was devotion to a sacred blueprint. Some archaeologists argue Aztec ruins functioned as a northern ceremonial hub, a place where Chacan rituals could be performed for communities too distant to make the arduous journey to the canyon. Yet differences whisper of adaptation as much as adherence. While Chaco's structures favored open plazas, Aztec's builders erected massive perimeter walls, possibly for defense against rising tensions in the region. Their kivas, though similar in shape, were often built above ground rather than sunken, an innovation likely responding to higher water tables in this river valley. The most telling divergence lies in the timbers. Tree ring dating reveals Aztec's construction peaked decades after Chaco's decline, suggesting this wasn't a colony but a renaissance, a purposeful revival of fading traditions by people determined to keep them alive. Then there's the matter of scale. Aztec ruins contains the largest reconstructed great kiva in North America, a colossal 70-foot wide chamber that could have held hundreds. Its walls once soared 3 stories high, plastered in vivid white and decorated with geometric paintings. The extravagance hints at more than spiritual continuity, it speaks of wealth. Positioned near the Animas River, the site sat at the crossroads of trade routes stretching from the Pacific coast to the Rocky Mountains. Shelled beads from California and copper bells from Mexico found here suggest it became a commercial powerhouse even as Chaco faded, blending economic might with enduring celestial reverence. Whether outpost, successor, or sacred homage, Aztec ruins stands as a testament to the Puebloans' astonishing cultural reach. Its walls don't merely copy Chaco, they converse with it across time and distance, proving that great ideas like carefully aligned sunlight can travel far beyond their origins. The echoes here aren't of decline, but of resilience, a civilization adapting its heart without losing its soul. Perched where the San Juan River carves through the high desert, Salmon Ruins occupies a stretch of land that wasn't just desirable, it was downright strategic. This wasn't another remote outpost like Tzincletzin or a ceremonial showpiece like Aztec ruins. Salmon sat at the confluence of 2 worlds, the Chacan heartland to the south and the Mesa Verde region to the north. Its location along the river made it a natural stopping point for trade, but the ruins tell a deeper story, one of cultural fusion, adaptation, and perhaps even diplomacy. First, consider the logistics. The San Juan River provided something rare in the arid Southwest, a reliable water source and a natural highway. Trails radiated from salmon like spokes on a wheel, connecting it to Chaco Canyon 200 miles southeast and Mesa Verde's cliff dwellings 100 miles northeast. Artifacts found here read like a manifest of ancient commerce: Pacific seashells, Chusca mountain turquoise, even copper bells from distant Mesoamerica. But what's truly revealing are the pottery styles. Salmon's ceramic fragments blend classic Chaco black on white designs with bold Mesa Verde patterns. suggesting more than just goods passed through, people and ideas did too. The architecture echoes this hybridization. Salmon's central great house mirrors Chaco's signature D-shaped layout, complete with aligned doorways marking solstices. Yet its construction techniques lean into Mesa Verde's practical innovations: thicker walls packed with insulating rubble, smaller windows to conserve heat. This wasn't a lazy copy-paste job, it was a thoughtful remix. Even the kivas tell a dual story. While they feature Chaco's iconic bench seating and subfloor ventilation systems, some are recessed into the hillside like Mesa Verde's cliffside chambers. The builders weren't just borrowing, they were optimizing. Then there's the timeline. Tree ring dates reveal salmon thrived during Chaco's decline in the 1200s, suggesting it became a lifeline for displaced traditions. As drought gripped the canyon, this riverside hub may have offered refuge, both physical and cultural. Archaeologists uncovered something poignant in the West Wing, a room filled with carefully disassembled Chacoan roofing beams, as if someone had transported the literal bones of their homeland to rebuild in this new sanctuary. Yet salmon's greatest legacy might be its role as a cultural translator. Petroglyphs near the site depict figures wearing both Chacoan headdresses and Mesa Verde-style sashes, hinting at shared ceremonies. Burials reveal blended practices, some bodies laid out in classic Chaco fashion, others flexed in the Mesa Verde tradition, all within the same plaza. This wasn't a borderland, it was a blending ground where two great Puebloan worlds flowed together as seamlessly as the San Juan's currents. The river still murmurs past salmon's crumbling walls today, a witness to the ingenuity of those who saw not a divide between cultures but a bridge. In its stones, we find proof that even in antiquity, the most strategic places weren't just about geography, they were about connection. The Great North Road stretches arrow straight for 30 miles across the high desert, a ribbon of packed earth and stones that defies the rugged terrain with almost supernatural determination. Unlike Chaco's other roads, which often meander toward practical destinations, this one points unwaveringly due north, not toward any known settlement or resource, but directly at a distant peak called Casa Canyon. For decades, archaeologists assumed it served as a trade route until a startling discovery revealed its true genius. The road aligns perfectly with the summer solstice sunset, a celestial marker visible only from specific points along its length. This wasn't just a path for people, it was a stone and dirt compass guiding travelers through both space and sacred time. Some theories suggest the road functioned as a pilgrimage route, with each step mirroring the Puebloan spiritual journey. At its terminus in Casa Canyon, the setting solstice sun would have bathed the cliffs in fiery light, transforming the landscape into a gateway between worlds. Petroglyphs found along the route depict spirals and serpentine figures, symbols often associated with emergence myths, as if marking stations along a ceremonial passage. Modern Pueblo descendants speak of similar roads in their oral traditions, describing them as paths of the dead leading to the underworld. The Great North Road's relentless straightness takes on new meaning through this lens, not a practical shortcut but a metaphysical bridge to the afterlife. Yet the road's engineering complicates any single interpretation. In places, it climbs steep slopes via expertly crafted staircases, then flattens into wide, processional-like avenues. Sections near sacred sites like Pueblo Alto feature carefully placed cairns that cast elongated shadows along the road's edges during equinoxes, turning the path itself into a sundial. The builders even diverted small washes to run parallel to the road in certain segments, creating reflective channels that would have glittered with moonlight, an effect that may have symbolized the water road described in Puebloan cosmology as the soul's final journey. The most haunting evidence comes from the road's edges. Excavations uncovered small, sealed niches containing offerings, turquoise beads, feather bundles, even the remains of scarlet macaws. These weren't accidental losses, they were deliberate deposits possibly left by pilgrims or mourners. One niche held a single, perfectly polished stone sphere, a rarity in Puebloan artifacts placed where the solstice sunset's last light would strike it annually. Such finds suggest the road wasn't merely traveled, it was ritualized, its very dust infused with meaning. Whether as an astronomical guide, a funerary procession route, or something beyond our modern understanding, the Great North Road transcends physical geography. Its unswerving line toward the horizon speaks of a culture that saw no divide between journey and destination, between earth and sky. In a landscape where every curve tells a story, this road's defiant straightness whispers the loudest truth of all. Sometimes the most direct path is the one that leads not just northward but homeward, to the place where the living and the ancestors meet beneath the solstice sun. Lowry Pueblo stands as a living palimpsest, its walls whispering stories of cultural exchange written in stone and timber. Built in the late 1100s, this compact yet complex settlement blends unmistakable Chaco hallmarks like T-shaped doorways and celestial alignments with distinctive local flourishes. The result, a hybrid architecture that reveals far more than construction technique. It maps the ebb and flow of influence across the ancient Southwest. At first glance, the Great Kiva at Lowry's heart could have been lifted straight from Chaco Canyon. Its precise circular form, subterranean depth, and 4 masonry pillars mirror the ceremonial chambers 100 miles south. But look closer, the bench seating wraps further around the interior than typical Chaco designs, and the ventilation system channels air in an innovative spiral pattern. These subtle tweaks suggest more than imitation, they signal adaptation. Perhaps local builders were refining Chaco's signature elements to suit their own ritual practices or environmental conditions. The alignment tells a similar story. While the Kiva's main doorway captures the winter solstice sunrise like its Chaco counterparts, a secondary niche frames the rising of the Pleiades, a star cluster sacred to many southwestern cultures but rarely emphasized in classic Chaco astronomy. The residential quarters amplify this cultural dialogue. Rooms in the eastern wing feature classic Chaco core and veneer masonry, with carefully shaped sandstone blocks arranged in decorative bands. Yet just yards away, the western walls abruptly shift to rougher, cobble-style construction typical of local traditions. This isn't haphazard patchwork. Tree ring dating confirms both sections were built within years of each other. The implication, 2 distinct communities may have coexisted here, each building according to their customs while sharing sacred spaces. Artifacts unearthed in the plaza strengthen this theory. Chaco-style cylinder jars for ceremonial chocolate sit alongside locally made corrugated cooking pots, their very textures telling tales of shared meals and blended traditions. What really fascinates archaeologists are the hidden layers beneath the visible ruins. Ground-penetrating radar reveals an earlier, smaller pueblo buried under the current structure, its layout matching local village patterns with no Chaco influences. The decision to rebuild atop it, this time incorporating Chaco's architectural vocabulary, speaks volumes about shifting power dynamics in the region. Was this a local community emulating Chaco's prestige? Or Chaco migrants adapting to a new homeland? The evidence tilts toward collaboration rather than conquest. Unlike the towering great houses of Chaco, Lowry's walls rarely exceed 2 stories, and its compact footprint hugs the landscape rather than dominating it. This wasn't a colonial outpost imposing foreign ideals, but a negotiated middle ground, a place where ideas mixed as freely as mortar and stone. Perhaps the most poignant clue lies in the ceiling beams. While Chaco's elite imported ponderosa pine from distant mountains, Lowry's builders used locally sourced juniper and pinyon, yet carved them with the same precise notching techniques. The message embedded in those timber joints, that cultural exchange isn't about wholesale adoption but creative reinterpretation. Lowry Pueblo didn't just borrow from Chaco's playbook, it composed entirely new chapters, proving that even in ancient times, the most enduring structures weren't those that resisted change, but those that embraced it as part of their foundation. Perched precariously on canyon rims and balanced atop boulders, the towers of Hovenweep defy gravity and easy explanation. These slender stone sentinels, some square, some perfectly round, rise like ancient skyscrapers from the high desert landscape. Unlike the communal great houses of Chaco or the cliffside dwellings of Mesa Verde, Hovenweep's towers stand apart literally and figuratively, spaced just far enough to maintain line of sight while remaining stubbornly independent. Their isolation sparks the central question: why build such precarious, labor-intensive structures if not for something beyond mere survival? Take Square Tower, the most iconic of the bunch. Perched directly over a natural seep spring, its base hugs the canyon edge so tightly that one misstep would send stones tumbling hundreds of feet. At first glance, this seems like strategic positioning: control the water, control the people. Yet the tower's design complicates that theory. Its upper windows align with the summer solstice sunrise and the lunar standstill, casting dagger-like beams of light onto specific interior markings. Could this have been both fortress and observatory? The thick lower walls suggest defense, while the precision-cut upper openings whisper of celestial calculation. Then there's the mystery of the circular towers. Unlike their angular counterparts, these smooth-walled enigmas often cluster near drainage areas or canyon heads. Their curved masonry channels runoff into intricate ditch systems, some still functional after 8 centuries, hinting at sophisticated water management. But why the round shape? Some scholars point to acoustics. Tests show that voices inside these chambers carry with unnatural clarity, possibly allowing communication between towers across vast distances. Others note their resemblance to kivas, suggesting ritual purposes. The discovery of sealed chambers beneath several towers adds weight to this idea. Some contained ritual objects like prayer sticks and turquoise beads, while others held nothing but carefully arranged stones in spiral patterns. The debate intensifies at Twin Towers, where 2 structures, one square, one round, stand just 20 paces apart. The square tower's sightlines track celestial events, while the round tower's base funnels water into a hidden cistern. Were they built by different factions, or was this intentional duality a physical manifestation of the Puebloan world's balance between practicality and spirituality? Modern Pueblo oral traditions offer clues. Some stories describe towers as sky ladders, where priests communed with cloud spirits to bring rain, while others recall them as warning beacons during conflicts. Perhaps the most haunting detail lies in the stones themselves. Unlike Chaco's imported sandstone, Hovenweep's towers use locally quarried rock, yet their masonry rivals the canyon's finest work. Each stone was precisely shaped to interlock without mortar, a technique requiring extraordinary skill. The builders didn't just adapt to their environment, they conversed with it, turning cliff edges into foundations and boulders into building blocks. Whether as sentinel posts, celestial calendars, or rain temples, these towers didn't just occupy the landscape, they became part of its voice, their silent height still echoing the questions we've yet to answer. Cliff Palace clings to the sandstone alcove like a fossilized dream, its 200 rooms and 23 kivas frozen in time. One of the most striking things about this Mesa Verde masterpiece isn't how it was built, but how it was left. Pottery still sits on reconstructed shelves, grinding stones rest near hearths, and yucca fiber sandals lie abandoned in corners, as if the inhabitants simply walked away one day and never returned. Unlike gradual abandonments where sites show signs of stripping and reuse, Cliff Palace feels eerily intact, preserved in mid-motion like a communal breath held too long. Tree rings tell part of the story, a 23-year drought starting in 1276 that withered crops and drained springs across the region. But drought alone doesn't explain the urgency etched into these ruins. Burn marks scar some doorways, suggesting controlled fires were used to ritually seal rooms. Meanwhile, several kivas bear traces of ceremonial objects left behind: painted prayer sticks, bundles of ceremonial corn, even a rare macaw feather headdress tucked into a wall niche. These weren't casually discarded items, they were deliberate deposits, hinting at a spiritual departure rather than a panicked flight. Archaeologists have uncovered another layer to the mystery: the roads. Mesa Verde's residents engineered an elaborate system of hand and toe-hold trails scaling the cliffs, paths so precarious they'd challenge modern climbers. Yet in Cliff Palace's final days, several of these routes were deliberately dismantled, their footholds chiseled away or blocked with boulders. This wasn't just leaving, it was closing the door. Some researchers interpret this as a defensive move against encroaching groups, while Pueblo oral traditions speak of a voluntary exodus, a return to mythical places of origin when the land could no longer sustain them. The most haunting clues come from the bones. Analysis of skeletal remains shows signs of malnutrition in children, but also of healed fractures in adults, evidence of both hardship and communal care. A group burial near the site's southern edge holds 14 individuals carefully arranged in a circle, their heads pointed inward. The positioning suggests a ceremonial interment, perhaps victims of a final epidemic or conflict. Yet there's no mass grave, no evidence of violent overthrow. Instead, we find orderly departure food stores redistributed, precious turquoise beads placed in central kivas as offerings. What emerges is a portrait of a community facing impossible choices. As the drought stretched into decades, the ancestral Puebloans may have seen Cliff Palace not as a home to flee, but as a fulfilled chapter to honor before moving on. Modern Hopi and Zuni descendants speak of migration as spiritual necessity, a belief that when the land suffers, people must journey to renew their covenant with the earth. In this light, Cliff Palace's abandonment transforms from tragedy to pilgrimage, its silent rooms not monuments to failure but to faith. The sandals left behind weren't forgotten. They were footsteps in a larger journey, one where the destination mattered more than the dwellings left in its wake. Balcony House dangles from Mesa Verde's cliffs like a wasp's nest, its 40 rooms crammed into a shallow sandstone alcove 300 feet above the canyon floor. To reach it today requires crawling through a 12-foot tunnel, scrambling up a 30-foot ladder, and clinging to narrow toeholds carved into sheer rock, a gauntlet that leaves modern visitors breathless. But for the ancient Puebloans who called this vertigo-inducing perch home, these weren't obstacles. They were deliberate design choices. Every treacherous access point whispers the same question: what was so valuable here that it justified such impossible entry? Start with the practical advantages. The single-file approach, first the tunnel, then the ladder, created a natural bottleneck, forcing any potential invaders to expose themselves one by one. The final stretch, a heart-pounding climb across open cliff face, would have been near suicidal under a hail of stones or arrows from defenders above. This wasn't just defense, it was architectural warfare. Yet Balcony House's location offered more than security. The south-facing alcove acts as a solar collector, trapping warmth during brutal winters while the overhang provides shade in summer. Just below, a hidden seep spring drips life-giving water into a natural cistern, precious resources all protected by that daunting approach. But survival alone doesn't explain the artistry woven into the stonework. Unlike cruder defensive sites, Balcony House boasts fine masonry walls with decorative banding, and its two kivas feature intricate ventilation systems identical to those in Chaco's grandest great houses. The namesake balconies, jutting wooden platforms that once overlooked the canyon, required logs hauled from mountains 20 miles away. This wasn't merely a fortress, it was a statement. Perhaps the very difficulty of access elevated its status, turning daily life into a ritual of endurance that mirrored spiritual ideals. Puebloan origin stories often speak of arduous climbs from underworlds to sunlight. Could inhabiting such heights have embodied that sacred journey? The most tantalizing clues lie in what wasn't left behind. While other cliff dwellings show signs of gradual abandonment, Balcony House's exit seems abrupt yet orderly. A perfectly coiled rope still dangles from one exit route, its yucca fibers preserved by the dry air. Nearby, a ceremonial staff leans against a wall as if placed there yesterday. These aren't the traces of people fleeing, they're the marks of people closing a chapter. Some archaeologists suggest Balcony House wasn't just a dwelling, but a ceremonial outlier where initiates underwent physical trials mirroring spiritual tests. The treacherous access may have been the point separating those ready for higher knowledge from the wider community below. Modern Pueblo voices add depth to these theories. Elder accounts describe similar high places as houses of testing, where the perilous climb mirrored the difficult path to wisdom. Others speak of cliffs as thresholds between worlds, their inaccessibility underscoring sacredness. Whether as refuge, ritual space, or both, Balcony House's impossible staircase wasn't an obstacle, it was an invitation. Every handhold asked climbers to prove their commitment, every ladder rung measured their resolve. In this light, the dwelling's true treasure wasn't what it protected, but what it demanded, the courage to reach heights where few dared to follow. Beneath the towering Douglas firs that gave Spruce Tree House its name, archaeologists uncovered something far older than the roots clutching at the canyon walls. A perfectly sealed kiva, its roof intact after 7 centuries of silence. Unlike the other ceremonial chambers at Mesa Verde, this one showed no signs of collapse or looting. The layers of packed earth and stones sealing its entrance weren't erosion. They were deliberate, like a time capsule buried with ritual precision. When researchers carefully lifted the last slab, the air that rushed out carried traces of burnt juniper and corn pollen, a ghost of ceremonies past preserved in the dark. What they found inside defied expectations. Instead of the usual scattering of pottery shards and tools, the kiva's floor held an intricate arrangement of objects. A cluster of miniature clay vessels no larger than thimbles, each containing a pinch of turquoise dust. A bundle of feathers tied with yucca cord, their colors still vibrant, and a single, perfectly symmetrical stone disc placed dead center, its surface etched with spirals. Mirroring the kiva's own ventilation shaft patterns, these weren't casual offerings, they were meticulously staged like props in a sacred play frozen mid-scene. The positioning suggests a ritual abruptly halted, then carefully preserved. The kiva's walls deepen the mystery. Unlike typical Mesa Verde chambers, these bore faint traces of mural paint, geometric patterns in red and white that seem to pulse when torchlight flickers across them. Even more startling were the handprints pressed into the plaster near the ceiling, 37 in total, their sizes ranging from adult to child. Some archaeologists interpret this as evidence of a multi-generational ceremony where families pressed their marks as witnesses to something profound. Others note the prints cluster around a small niche that aligns with the winter solstice sunrise, suggesting a right tide to celestial renewal. Then there's the matter of the missing ladder. Most kivas feature a wooden ladder descending through the roof hole, but here, only the impressions remain 2 parallel grooves worn into the floor where the ladder's base once rested. The absence speaks volumes. In Puebloan tradition, removing the ladder symbolizes the end of a cycle, a ritual closing of sacred space. Yet the care taken to seal the chamber suggests anticipation of reopening. Perhaps the builders intended future generations or even spiritual beings to rediscover it. The most haunting discovery lay beneath the stone disc. Using ground-penetrating radar, researchers detected a hollow space below the floor. Excavation revealed a cache of 32 corn cobs, each genetically distinct, representing every known ancestral Puebloan strain. This wasn't just food storage, it was a botanical archive, a safeguard against agricultural catastrophe. Wrapped around them was a cordage net woven from human hair. Analysis revealed strands from at least 14 individuals, a tangible web of community woven into the very fibers preserving their future. Spruce Tree House's hidden kiva doesn't just hold artifacts, it holds intention. Every element from the microscopic turquoise grains to the echoing handprints suggests a people thinking beyond their own lifespan, curating knowledge against the erosions of time. Whether as a ritual farewell, a seed bank for the unseen future, or a bridge between worlds, this chamber's silence hums with purpose. The care taken to preserve it challenges our modern notion of abandonment. Perhaps what we call leaving, they understood as waiting. Longhouse looms over Mesa Verde's canyon with doorways that seem built for giants, massive openings twice the height of an average person, their lintels carved from single slabs of sandstone weighing hundreds of pounds. These megalithic portals defy practical explanation. Why expend such effort on entrances far exceeding functional needs? The answer may lie in the interplay of ceremony, astronomy, and a culture that saw thresholds as far more than passageways. One of the most striking doorways frames the winter solstice sunrise with uncanny precision. As dawn breaks on the shortest day of the year, sunlight pierces through the opening like an arrow, striking a precisely placed spiral petroglyph on the opposite wall. This alignment isn't accidental, it required generations of celestial observation and meticulous engineering. The doorway's exaggerated height may have served as a light catcher, ensuring the sunbeam's path remained unobstructed even as the alcove's shadow shifted through the centuries. Unlike the cramped crawl spaces of Cliff Palace, these towering entrances suggest procession and spectacle, spaces designed not just for bodies to pass through, but for celestial events to unfold within them. Then there's the matter of sound. Experiments show that voices uttered near these doorways produce an eerie amplification, with certain tones resonating through the alcove like a natural amplifier. This acoustic effect isn't present in smaller openings. The massive scale seems to activate the canyon's natural reverberations. Combined with traces of painted murals depicting flute players and ceremonial dancers, the evidence points to performances where music and movement flowed through these portals, transforming them into stages for ritual theater. But perhaps the most provocative theory connects these doorways to Puebloan origin stories. Many oral traditions describe ancestors emerging into this world through towering portals, often symbolized by oversized openings in the earth. By replicating these mythic passages in stone, Longhouse's builders may have been creating physical manifestations of spiritual gateways, places where the boundary between worlds grew thin. The discovery of buried offerings beneath several lintels supports this idea. Bundles of feathers, polished stone effigies, even the remains of scarlet macaws arranged as if guarding the threshold. Yet practicality lingers beneath the symbolism. The doorway's strategic placement along the alcove's curve creates natural air currents, funneling cool breezes into living spaces during scorching summers while blocking winter winds. Their height also allows reflected moonlight to penetrate deep into interior chambers during certain lunar phases, eliminating the need for torchlight in critical storage areas. This duality, sacred function woven seamlessly with environmental adaptation, epitomizes Puebloan ingenuity. Standing before these monumental portals today, one can't help but feel their intentional presence. They weren't merely built to accommodate human movement, but to shape it, guiding bodies, light, and sound in ways that blurred the line between architecture and living ceremony. In their shadow, we glimpse a culture that measured significance not in inches, but in the spaces between earth and sky, between the practical and the profound. Step House cradles a secret in its layered walls, a snapshot of time frozen midway between two worlds. Here, the earliest basket-maker pit houses, those circular dugouts roofed with logs and mud, sit shoulder to shoulder with the squared-off masonry of classic Puebloan architecture. It's as if the site pressed pause on an entire cultural transformation, preserving the moment when nomadic hunter-gatherers became master builders of the cliffs. Walk the ruins today and you can trace the evolution underfoot. The oldest layer reveals shallow depressions in the earth, their soot-blackened floors still speckled with charred corn kernels and grinding stones. These pit houses, dating back to the 600s, were practical shelters, cool in summer, insulated in winter, but their very simplicity hints at a mobile way of life. Then, just inches above in the archaeological record, the shift begins. Crude stone footings appear around the pit's edges, the first tentative steps toward permanence. By the 900s, the transition crystallizes. The curved walls of the pit houses give way to angular stone rooms stacked 2 stories high, their mortar mixed with the same reddish soil that once lined the basket-maker hearths. What makes step house extraordinary isn't just the coexistence of these styles, but the deliberate choices etched into every stone. In one corner, excavators found a pit house that had been carefully backfilled with clean sand, then capped with a masonry wall, a ritual burial of the old ways perhaps, or a foundation literally built on ancestral ground. Nearby, a later Puebloan doorway was intentionally aligned to frame the original pit house's central fire pit, creating a sightline between past and present. These aren't accidental overlaps, they're physical conversations across centuries. The artifacts bridge worlds just as strikingly. Beneath one flagged stone slab, archaeologists uncovered a basket-maker-style woven sandal resting atop a Puebloan black-on-white pottery shard, a layered metaphor of continuity. Even the site's name whispers of transition. The steps refer not just to the terraced ruins, but to the generations who climbed them culturally. Modern Pueblo voices add depth to these silent stones. Oral traditions speak of this era not as rupture, but as emergence, a time when the people stepped into the light by embracing agriculture and settled life. Step house's greatest lesson may be that cultural evolution isn't a sudden leap, but a slow dance where every step forward glances back. The stones remember what we so often forget, that progress doesn't erase the past, it builds upon it, one careful layer at a time. Mug House cradles treasures that whisper of horizons far beyond Mesa Verde's cliffs, artifacts so exotic they seem to defy geography. Here, in a modest alcove dwelling, archaeologists unearthed a trove of macaw feathers, their iridescent blues and reds still vibrant after centuries tucked between sandstone walls. These weren't local birds. Scarlet macaws thrive in the rainforests of Mexico, over 1,000 miles south. Their presence, alongside copper bells cast in West Mexican workshops and seashells from the Pacific coast, paints a startling picture. Mug House wasn't just a remote home, it was a node in a vast, intercontinental exchange network that pulsed with life long before European contact. The journey these objects took boggles the mind. Picture traders navigating desert trails and mountain passes, macaws transported in reed cages, their feathers prized not just for adornment but as sacred conduits to the spirit world. Copper bells, with their delicate chiming tones, likely traveled north alongside cacao and turquoise in a barter system spanning cultures and ecosystems. One particular bell found at Mug House bears a telling detail, tiny indentations mimicking the scales of a serpent, a motif linking it to Mesoamerican rain deities. This wasn't mere decoration, it was a symbolic language transcending linguistic barriers, whispering shared beliefs across continents. Equally revealing are the traces left behind by the object's caretakers. Microscopic analysis of the macaw feathers revealed traces of corn pollen and powdered turquoise, suggesting they were ritually fed like living beings. A cluster of shells showed drill holes in identical patterns, not for stringing, but for suspending them above kivas so wind could animate them during ceremonies. The artifacts' placements tell their own story. Many were tucked into wall niches or buried beneath floors, arranged to align with solstice sunbeams. These weren't casually stored goods, they were active participants in Mug House's spiritual life. Yet the greatest mystery lies in the mundane. Among these rare imports, excavators found something equally precious: a single charred corn cob of a strain genetically matched to varieties grown in the Mississippi Valley. How did Midwestern maize reach this Colorado cliff dwelling? The answer might rewrite our understanding of trade's reach. Some scholars speculated came via intermediary tribes, while others proposed direct connections forged during drought-driven migrations. Either way, this humble cob proves Mug House's residents didn't just trade for luxury, they cultivated relationships stretching across half a continent. What emerges is a portrait of interconnectedness that shatters old stereotypes of isolated cliff dwellers. The feathers, bells, and shells weren't just commodities, they were threads in a cultural tapestry woven through shared ritual and necessity. Each artifact carries dual meanings. A copper bell's chime might mark both a ceremonial moment and a trader's journey. A macaw feather could symbolize both status and a prayer for rain. In these storied walls, the local and the global weren't opposites, they were partners, bound together by hands that reached across deserts, mountains, and time itself. Square Tower House rises from its canyon perch with an almost mathematical perfection. Its walls so precisely aligned they seem drawn by some ancient architect's compass. At 4 stories tall, it's one of Mesa Verde's loftiest structures, yet its foundation clings to a rock shelf barely wider than the tower itself. This precarious balancing act defies logic. How did builders achieve such stability without modern tools or calculations? The answer lies in a blend of intuitive engineering and cultural ingenuity that turns stone and mortar into a masterpiece of equilibrium. Every aspect of Square Tower House's design serves a dual purpose, structural and symbolic. The walls taper slightly as they ascend, a technique that not only distributes weight efficiently but mirrors the sacred shape of mountains in Puebloan cosmology. Cornerstones are interlocked like puzzle pieces, their alternating pattern creating natural flexibility to withstand tremors in this seismically active region. Even the mortar tells a story, mixed with crushed ceramic fragments for added strength, an innovation researchers have found nowhere else in the Southwest. This wasn't just construction, it was applied physics encoded with spiritual meaning. The tower's most astonishing feature hides in plain sight, its invisible alignment with the surrounding cliffs. Laser scans reveal that the structure's longest walls run parallel to natural fissures in the sandstone behind it, allowing the rock face to act as a secondary support. Meanwhile, the shorter walls align with the winter solstice sunrise, channeling a beam of light through a strategically placed window that illuminates an interior niche at dawn. The builders didn't fight the landscape, they collaborated with it, weaving geology, astronomy, and architecture into a single cohesive system. Height posed another puzzle. Unlike European towers built with internal staircases, Square Tower House's upper floors were accessed via removable ladders, a choice that minimized interior weight while allowing quick retreat during threats. Dendrochronology shows the roof beams were replaced every few generations, suggesting maintenance was a continuous ritual rather than an afterthought. Some beams bear deliberate carvings of celestial events, turning structural elements into a kind of three-dimensional calendar. What truly staggers modern engineers is the tower's endurance. While later European structures of similar height often lean or crumble over centuries, Square Tower House stands plumb after 800 years of desert winds and freeze-thaw cycles. The secret may lie in its living foundation. The builders left narrow gaps between the lowest stones and the bedrock, allowing subtle movement that prevents cracks from propagating upward. This dynamic stability, observed in some Japanese pagodas, shows an advanced understanding of how structures interact with their environment. Yet beyond the physics lies a deeper truth. Pueblo oral traditions describe towers as earth nails tethering the physical and spiritual worlds. The precision of Square Tower House wasn't just about defying gravity, it was about creating a conduit. Every proportional choice, from the thickness of the walls to the spacing of the windows, appears to follow a sacred geometry echoed in Pueblo pottery and petroglyphs. In this light, the tower's endurance becomes more than engineering. It's a testament to the power of building with intention, where every stone carries both weight and wisdom. The Sun Temple's skeletal walls rise abruptly from Mesa Verde's Mesa top, their half-finished stones frozen in mid-construction like a paused breath. Unlike the polished perfection of Cliff Palace or the towering symmetry of Square Tower House, this sprawling D-shaped complex was never roofed, never plastered, never inhabited. Its very incompleteness raises haunting questions. What grand vision was cut short here, and why did the builders walk away when they were clearly so close to realizing it? Tree rings tell part of the story. The last timbers felled for the site date to 1277, coinciding with the onset of Mesa Verde's worst drought in centuries. But environmental stress alone doesn't explain the temple's abrupt abandonment. Excavations reveal tools neatly stacked beside piles of unused mortar, carefully sealed caches of food left in storage niches, and not a single sign of conflict or catastrophe. This wasn't a panicked evacuation, it was a deliberate suspension, as if the builders intended to return. Then there's the puzzle of its design. The Sun Temple's double-walled construction, with gaps filled with rubble between the layers, mirrors Chaco Great Houses hundreds of miles away, a technique otherwise rare at Mesa Verde. Its alignment is even more telling. The curved outer wall precisely frames both the summer solstice sunrise and the lunar standstill, while interior doorways create sun daggers that strike specific markers during equinoxes. The scale suggests it wasn't meant for daily use, but for mass gatherings or celestial observations. Some researchers believe it was on track to become the largest ceremonial structure in the region, a spiritual successor to Chaco's greatness as that civilization faded. But the most tantalizing clue lies beneath the east wall. Ground-penetrating radar detected a buried stone disk 6 feet across, inscribed with spirals matching Puebloan cosmology maps of the underworld. Positioned directly below where the winter solstice sun would have struck the interior, it hints at a symbolic axis mundi, a connection between earth, sky, and the subterranean realms. Had the temple been completed, might this have been the centerpiece of some grand ritual theater? Among the scattered construction materials, archaeologists found something poignant: a child's handprint pressed into a drying mortar slab, forever suspended between layers. It's a fleeting human moment in this monumental mystery, reminding us that the Sun Temple isn't just an abandoned site. It's a promise unfulfilled, a conversation between generations that was interrupted mid-sentence. The care taken to preserve tools and materials suggests belief in a future return, a cycle that never came full circle. Perhaps the greatest lesson here isn't about why they left, but what they believed they might come back to. Deep in the shadowed alcove of what archaeologists call the Fire Temple, the walls tell a scorched story. Layers of soot cling to the sandstone like ancient ink, their patterns forming a cryptic record of flames that danced here centuries ago. But these aren't random burns, they form deliberate constellations of char, concentrated around ventilation shafts and ceiling niches in ways that defy simple explanations. Some sections show repeated, controlled scorching over decades, while others bear the chaotic scars of what might have been a single, catastrophic inferno. The question lingers in every blackened stone: were these fires lit in reverence, raised in conflict, or sparked by tragic accident? One compelling clue lies in the temple's unique floor design. Unlike typical kivas with flat surfaces, this chamber features shallow troughs radiating from a central fire pit, their channels lined with traces of melted sand that hardened into glassy rivulets. Experiments recreating these grooves reveal they functioned as heat diffusers, allowing flames to burn at precise temperatures for extended periods, perfect for prolonged ceremonies requiring sustained fire. Nearby, archaeologists uncovered piles of juniper and pinyon branches stacked with ritual care, their tips uniformly charred as if dipped rather than freely burned. Combined with ceramic fragments bearing soot stains only on their interiors, the evidence suggests vessels may have carried sacred flames from hearth to altar in carefully managed processions. Yet not all burns speak of devotion. A thick, erratic ash layer near the eastern wall contains arrowheads fused with molten stone by extreme heat, possible remnants of a defensive stand where flaming projectiles were loosed against attackers. Tree ring data from surviving roof beams shows a cluster of fire-scarred timbers felled in the same drought year when neighboring settlements like Cliff Palace show signs of unrest. Oral traditions from descendant Pueblo peoples recall this era as the time when smoke hid the sun, hinting at widespread conflict that may have turned sacred spaces into fortresses. The most enigmatic burns, however, defy either category. High on the rear wall, a perfect circle of soot surrounds a petroglyph of the plumed serpent, an image sacred to Puebloan cosmology. Microscopic analysis reveals this wasn't ordinary wood smoke, but resin from high-altitude conifers mixed with ground hematite, producing a slow, blue flame that would have left minimal residue. The only comparable traces come from ceremonial hearths in distant Mesoamerican temples, raising tantalizing questions about exchanged rituals across vast trade networks. Perhaps the fire temple's true lesson lies in its layers, each burn a palimpsest of meaning. From the carefully tended ritual fires that marked solstices to the desperate blazes of a society under strain, these blackened stones refuse to simplify history into single narratives. They whisper instead of a place where light and shadow danced in equal measure, where the same flames that warmed sacred chants could also consume entire worlds. The soot lingers not as evidence of any one truth, but as an invitation to sit with the complexities of a people who knew fire as both creator and destroyer, as familiar as a cooking hearth and as fearsome as the sun itself. Perched on a windswept promontory far from Mesa Verde's bustling cliff dwellings, the Tower of Silence stands alone, a cylindrical sentinel whose purpose has eluded consensus for generations. Unlike the communal plazas and residential complexes of nearby sites, this solitary structure boasts no hearths, no storage bins, no signs of daily habitation. Its walls, however, whisper secrets to those who know how to listen. The first clue lies in its alignment. A narrow window slit carved into the eastern face captures the rising sun only during the equinoxes, casting a razor-thin beam of light across the interior floor to illuminate a series of meticulously carved spiral petroglyphs. This precision suggests the tower served as a celestial calendar, marking the balance between seasons with agricultural and ceremonial significance. But the tower's most haunting feature lies beneath the stone floor, a subterranean chamber accessible only by a ladder through a tight shaft. Within this sunless space, archaeologists uncovered traces of bone fragments and wood ash, their arrangement too deliberate for accidental deposition. Some researchers propose this was a sky burial site where Puebloans exposed deceased loved ones to the elements, a practice echoed in Tibetan and Zoroastrian traditions, allowing carrion birds to carry souls skyward. Supporting this theory are petroglyphs of winged figures encircling the tower's exterior, their beaks agape as if mid-cry. Descendant oral traditions speak of such structures as places where the wind takes prayers, where the dead were returned to the cosmos through ritual decomposition. Yet defensive practicality lingers in the design. The tower's elevated position offers unobstructed sightlines to distant signal fires, some still visible as charcoal remnants on neighboring mesas. Its walls contain unusual acoustic properties. A shout from the rooftop echoes across canyons with unnatural clarity, potentially allowing communication across vast distances without smoke or flame. Perhaps most telling are the arrow shafts found wedged between stones in the upper levels. Some snapped mid-flight, their obsidian tips still embedded in the mortar. These signs of conflict suggest the tower may have doubled as a last-stand outpost during times of unrest. The Tower of Silence resists singular explanations. Its stones hold multitudes, a monument to celestial cycles, a vessel for spiritual transitions, a bulwark against encroaching threats. What emerges isn't contradiction but synthesis, a testament to the Puebloan worldview where science and spirituality, life and death, protection and pilgrimage were never truly separate. In its shadow, we glimpse a culture that built not just for the present but for the infinite. From the towering great houses of Chaco Canyon to the solitary cliffside sentinels of Mesa Verde, these 30 structures stand as monuments to a civilization that transformed stone and sky into something extraordinary. Each site holds its own enigma, whether it's the celestial precision of Casa Rinconada's kiva, the whispered acoustics of Pueblo Bonito's curved wall, or the haunting incompleteness of the Sun Temple's abandoned grandeur. Together, they paint a portrait of the ancient Puebloans not just as builders but as astronomers, engineers, and poets of the earth. Yet for every answer uncovered, a solstice alignment decoded, a trade route traced, a dozen new questions emerge. Why did roads vanish into cliffs? What rituals unfolded in the fire temple's flickering shadows? And what compelled an entire people to leave these masterpieces behind? The true genius of these places lies in their refusal to be fully understood. They challenge us to see beyond ruins to the living minds that conceived them, minds that mapped the cosmos in mortar joints and wove spiritual meaning into every step of a canyon trail. Modern science can calculate the weight of a sandstone block or date a roof beam down to the year, but it can't fully capture the dreams that propelled these projects. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson these walls teach, that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only honored. Now it's your turn. Have you stood beneath Mesa Verde's alcoves and felt the echo of ancient footsteps? Do you see patterns in petroglyphs that others have missed? The conversation about these sites is far from over. Every visitor brings new eyes, and every generation uncovers fresh clues. Whether you're planning a pilgrimage to these desert sanctuaries or exploring them through the pages of archaeology, remember that you're part of the story too. Share what you discover, question what you're told, and keep looking up just as the Puebloans did, to where the stones still point toward the stars.